Hello and welcome to the December 7th, 2025 episode of Nick's News. I am your host Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we are putting money into this project of ours. We're live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like Industry Tap, Live Science, Positive.News, and GoodGoodGood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Another wonderful evening. Now, this is going to be another cool news episode, covering the very cool news we and Nick's Newsies have found throughout the year. They may not have made the cut as good news and have been presented on previous episodes as such, but we definitely like to showcase them for how cool they are. And again, as usual with the cool news episodes, because we go through like so many, I think we have like 13 articles to go over tonight. They are going to be abridged versions of them due to the sheer volume, and as usual, the links will be posted in the description of the video right down below, or in the chat as we get to them. So thank you all for catching those or checking up on them. Hello, everybody. Happy to see folks in the chat. News Brew. This is the last of what I am calling the ABV Valley, until we begin to summit the mountain through the end of the year. That's right, from here on out, the ABV is just going to go up. I think we have, 3 more episodes here in 2025? Double check. Yep, we have 3 more episodes. And across those 3 episodes, the ABV is just going to get higher and higher. And the beer that we're finishing the year off on is insane. But enough about the end of the year, let's talk about tonight. Our news brew for tonight is another Producer Donna brew that doesn't leave much to the imagination. It is Milk Chocolate Stout. Milk Chocolate Stout by Brock Street Brewing Company. It's a 5.5 ABV Milk Stout, so kind of a sweeter stout, and it was the gold medal winner, or gold medal winning stout at the Canadian Brewing Awards, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a can, so we don't need the Balisong bottle opener. We will enjoy it in a pint glass, because it is a sweeter, low ABV stout. I don't need a snifter or a Tiku glass for this. I'm just going to drink it out of a regular old pint glass. Let's blow the gain on the audio. Ooh, it smells milk chocolatey. Into the theatrics of a 5-minute pour. Get all that gas out of there so it's not going into me. Very thick head, almost like a Guinness. I'm going to need to give that time to settle. Well, while we wait for that to settle, we can get into our shout-outs. Did you know that I'm part of a podcast team? That's right, you can check out DAINIME, the Daikaiju and Anime Podcast. My friend T is the leader of it. T and friends discuss, review, and reflect on giant monsters and Japanese animation. I am one of the friends, which is great. If you love kaiju movies and anime, please check out DAINIME, the Daikaiju and Anime Podcast. Links are in the description. So to T for starting off DAINIME and continuing it. Cheers. Oh, that is rich. Rich milk chocolatey brew. Oh my. That is good. Whew, that is good. We're going to give a shout out to Tesla Tree Service, and they are, as always, awesome, with 3 cat rescues this week. Della, Sunday, and the Cold Wet Tuxedo Cat are all safe and warm now. So to Tesla Tree Service, continuing to absolutely be amazing. Cheers. Tim in the chat says chewy. It's not really chewy. It's a lighter stout. It's very lighter bodied. Like, yeah, it's dark as could be, but it's really lighter bodied milk, like a lighter bodied milk stout. They tend to be a sweeter, thinner stout. And this one's living up to it. Oh, that milk chocolate sweetness at the end. It's fantastic. News quote. Breathe, darling. This is just a chapter. It's not your whole story. That comes from Samantha Laurie, or SC Laurie, who we've had before as a person who has a news quote that we've done a news quote for. They're an English author, poet, artist, blogger, and photographer. And I really like that quote, because it does, things seem really bad for a lot of folks right now. But this isn't the whole of a person's life. This is a moment. This is a moment for all of us. And good times and good things will come back. If they aren't there right now for you, they will come back. So just keep in mind, breathe, darling. This is just a chapter. It's not your whole story. From SC Laurie. Cheers. Oh. Julie says, hey, I'm here but still working on cookies. I forgot how time-consuming rolling out gingerbread is. Julie, it is appreciated. Don't worry. We're happy to have you. Bug news. Life is good for the various bugs living in my study. Ripley has been making noises that could put the fear of God into seasoned warriors. She is terrifying. The Cuddle Puddle has gotten a lot of healthy eats. I had some leftover salad. I'm going to be traveling for most of this upcoming week, so I didn't want the salad to go bad, so I just fed it to the bugs. And the Cuddle Puddle loves salad. Sue, however, has been harassing them, as a couple times I've seen him on that side of the tank, which is closest to their home, and he's waggling his claws at them. Now, Producer Donna, when I told her that earlier, brought up that that's kind of, a pot-kettle thing, what with how much of a fraidy cat Sue is of Elmira. So, maybe I just need to get him a turkey bug for his holidays. Who knows? All is well in the bug world. And if you look behind, you can just catch sight of some really cool little decorations. Producer Donna sent me some really cool decorations for the bug tanks last Christmas. So, like, on Ripley's tank and on the Cuddle Puddle's tank, there's, like, this really cool bow of holly and crickets. And then I gave Sue his own stocking. Keep an eye out on that tank in case our scaredy boy wants to come out and say hi. And if he does, just say Sue or post scorpion emojis in the chat. Becky asked, turkey bug. So for my mantises, when I used to keep mantises, I would go and get Madagascar hissing roaches, which are very large roaches for them, and I would give them to them come Thanksgiving or Christmas as a turkey bug, as a big holiday bug. Maybe I need to go pick some up to give to Sue. Tim says, looks like your plants need some TLC. So this is how this coffee plant has always looked. It's actually in really good shape. My Christmas cactus just goes through phases. It's so weird. My Scarlet Star is actually doing really well down there. I actually need to repot it next year because it has gotten huge. That's about it for the plants back there. So they're doing pretty good, actually. Yeah, I don't know why that coffee plant it's always just looked like that. No matter even when I was rotating it regularly, it still just looks so weird. But thank you for pointing it out, Tim. No, I do appreciate it. I try my best to take good care of my plants and my bugs, so. All right, we've got a lot to go through. 13 articles that we will do the abridged versions of, but that is honestly a lot. So, let's get into our broadcast, which is broken up into 4 major categories. For the cool episode, it is going to be cool science and technology, cool health and medicine, cool flora and fauna, aka plants and animals that are cool, and cool wholesome notes. So, we will start off in category 1, cool science and technology. This first article we called, "In Space, No One Can Hear You Make Angry Moss Sounds." I will copy and paste the link into the chat if you want to check out the article. And remember, all of these links are in the description of the video. This moss survived 9 months outside the International Space Station in the harshness of space. This was published to CBC on November 20th of 2025 by Nicole Mortellaro. Space is a harsh environment. It's a vacuum with freezing temperatures, super high ultraviolet radiation, and, of course, almost no oxygen. Japanese researchers have found a type of moss that doesn't really care about much of that. In a new study, researchers sent a type of moss called Physcomitrium patens to the International Space Station. This moss didn't get to live in the comfy, more or less Earth-like confines of the station, though. It was put outside into the harshness of space for 9 months. That is cruel. The researchers tested 3 different stages of the moss. Protonemata, which is a juvenile moss, brood cells, which are specialized stem cells, and sporophytes, which are reproductive structures that encase spores. Not all of the stages survived space. When it came to the juvenile moss, it was unable to survive the high ultraviolet radiation or the extreme temperature fluctuations. The brood cells had a better rate, surviving the freezing temperatures for 30 days, whereas 80% of the sporophytes actually survived. This paper's research proved that they can survive at least a 9-month exposure without growing at all, said lead researcher Tomomichi Fujita, a professor at Hokkaido University. But what's even better is that when they were returned to Earth, roughly 90% of the spores were able to germinate and grow in a laboratory setting. So the spores for this moss didn't care that they were in space. They just waited to come back home. The researchers will need to do further work to look at whether or not the spores changed while in space. Scientists say that if humans are going to eventually live on the moon, or even Mars, we need to figure out how to survive. For Fujita, the idea of using moss, specifically Physcomitrium patens, Physcomitrium patens, came from the plant's hardiness. The researchers believe that the structure surrounding the spores acts like a protective layer, absorbing UV radiation. They also suggest that perhaps this layer blankets the inner spore to prevent damage. Such protection could also be how this hardy moss group, called bryophytes, may have transitioned from an aquatic plant to terrestrial about 500 million years ago. Fujita says he hopes the findings help to create ecosystems on the moon and Mars. That is really cool news about moss that can survive 9 months in space. To everybody involved in that study, and to the moss for making it back, cheers. All right. Gotta do some quick fixes real quick. Just a moment, sorry. There we go. Okay. We call this next one, Beep Boop, I'm Not Here to Bug You. I'll copy and paste it into the chat. Scientists are building cyborg cockroaches to create the world's smallest search and rescue workers. This was published at goodgoodgood.co on October 30th of 2025 by Megan Cook. Imagine being buried under building rubble and seeing a 3-inch beetle squeeze through the cracks to pinpoint your location, and even deliver life-saving medication. Lachlan Fitzgerald, a research assistant at the University of Queensland, paints a vivid picture of this scenario as he submerges a giant burrowing cockroach in an ice bath and attaches a tiny circuit board to its back. We see a future where after an urban disaster like an earthquake or bombing, where humans can't safely access the disaster site, being able to send in a bunch of cyborg beetles to navigate the disaster zone quickly and efficiently, he told CNN. In the biorobotics lab, Fitzgerald and his team have been fine-tuning new biohybrid technology that issues electrical pulses to their subject's antenna to direct their movements. That's right, it is a remote-controlled bug. Insects are... Oh, sorry about that. Insects are so adaptable compared to an artificial robotic system, which has to perform so much computation to be able to deal with all the different scenarios that might get thrown at it in the real world, Fitzgerald explained. The Australian researchers join an ever-broadening discipline of biohybrid research, one that includes bionic jellyfish and micro-robots controlled by king oyster mushrooms. As producer Donna just posted in the chat, last cool news, we talked about those cyborg jellyfish. Now we have the cyborg bugs. Fitzgerald acknowledged that animal welfare is a valid concern as the field evolves, but maintained that he and his fellow roboticists don't cause undue stress to their subjects. His giant cyborg cockroaches have the same life expectancies as backpackless beetles. To everybody involved creating bionic bugs to help with search and rescue operations. Cheers. I know with these cut-down articles, we tend to fly through them a little bit, but by all means, if you have ideas or anything, please bring it up in the chat. Becky just said, maybe bionic birds next. Who knows? We call this next one, I Spy with My Squishy Robotic Eye. I'll copy and paste this into the chat. Scientists create ultra-powerful, squishy robotic eye that focuses automatically and doesn't need a power source. This was published to Live Science on October 22nd of 2025 by Stephanie Pappas. A squishy robotic eye can focus automatically in response to light without any external power. The ultra-powerful robotic lens is sensitive enough to distinguish hairs on an ant's leg or the lobes of a pollen grain. The lens is made of a hydrogel, which contains a framework of polymers that can trap and release water, allowing the hydrogel to move between more liquid-like and more solid-like states. In this case, the hydrogel responds to heat by releasing water and shrinking when it's warmed up, and absorbing water and swelling when it's cooled. The researchers fabricated a ring of hydrogel around a silicone polymer lens, situating the eye-like design in a larger frame. The hydrogel is embedded with tiny particles of graphene oxide, which are dark-colored and absorb light. When light of intensity equivalent to sunlight hits the graphene oxide, the particles heat up and warm the hydrogel, which shrinks and stretches, pulling the lens to focus it. When the light source is removed, the hydrogel swells and releases the tension on the lens. The hydrogel reacts to light across the visible spectrum. This is a really cool eye, almost kind of like what our eyes do to a degree. In a new paper published in the journal Science Robotics, first author Corey Zheng, a doctoral student in biomedical engineering at the Georgia Institute of Technology, and his doctoral advisor, Shu Jia, a biomedical engineer at Georgia Tech, found that this lens could be used instead of the glass lens in a traditional light microscope to distinguish tiny details. For instance, the lens could image the 4 micrometer gap between a tick's claws, see 5 micrometer filaments on fungus, and detect the 9 micrometer stubble on an ant's leg. More exciting, Zhang said, is that the researchers are now integrating the lens into a microfluidic system of valves made from the same responsive hydrogel. That means the light used to make the image can also serve to power an intelligent autonomous camera system, Zhang said. And because the hydrogel is adaptable, the lens may be able to see well beyond what the human eye can detect. For instance, it might be able to mimic the ability of a cat's vertical eye to detect camouflaged objects, or to copy a cuttlefish's odd W-shaped retina, which enables it to see colors that humans can't. That is some really cool science. To everybody involved creating a very interesting hydrogel and silicone lens eye that has incredible seeing power. Cheers. The squishy bionic eye. Last article that we have here in Science and Technology, we called Blink and You'll Miss It. And this one was sent in by Nick's newsie Chris, so Chris, thank you very much for sending this in. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Man builds 2 billion frame per second camera that literally records at the speed of light. This was published to Petapixel on October 20th of 2025 by Matt Grokut. Brian Haydett of the Alpha Phoenix YouTube channel has recorded a laser beam at 2 billion frames per second, recording the path of light as it bounces across his garage. Haydett, who has a PhD in materials science, previously built a 1 billion frame per second camera and iterated on that previous design to improve virtually everything over the course of the last 12 months. The camera itself consists of 1 mirror, 1 lens, 2 tubes, cable, one of the weirdest camera flash bulbs probably ever built, and a few hundred lines of Python. It's not only fast enough to watch light move, it's fast enough to see the past, exclaims the ebullient Haydett. Light moves about 6 inches, or 15 centimeters, per frame of this video. This beam of light is traveling at the universe's speed limit. Light in any reference frame will never move any faster or any slower than this speed. Haydett's 2 billion frame per second camera can only record in 1 by 1 pixels. Since he can only record 1 pixel at a time, Haydett has to keep pointing the camera in different directions to allow him to tile the image. Tiling is something that astrophotographers do to get high-resolution images of celestial objects by combining just a lot of photos taken of that area. If all these videos are synchronized and we take many 1-pixel videos, we can tile these videos next to each other and play them all back at the exact same moment and give something that looks like a video, Haydett explains, while also saving a stupendous amount of money. To Brian Haydett, who built a 2 billion frame per second camera that can watch light travel. Cheers. That is really cool. Let me move this one over. There we go. Uh, hmm. I'm missing something. Just a moment. Producer Donna, the write-up that we have for, the Cool Health and Medicine does not have the third article. It's only got 2 of them. Let me double check and see if it's hidden somewhere. Nope, it's only got 2. If you could shoot me over the write-up for the third article, that would be awesome. While she works on that, I can start doing the other 2, though. That's going to bump us out of Cool Science and Technology. We're going to move on to Category 2, Cool Health and Medicine. Oh, shoot. Yep. Thank you, Chris, for sending in the article about the camera. Cheers, Chris. Sorry about that, everybody. It's a little different reading it this way than what we normally do. So, that's weird. There we go. Getting that all set up. Cool. All right, let's get into these articles for Cool Health and Medicine. There it is. All right, so this first one that we've got is a cancer, fuck cancer article. I absolutely hate cancer. Hate it with a passion. So, all right, I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. A promising natural compound may offer new hope for treating one of the most aggressive forms of leukemia. This was published to SciTech Daily on November 26th by the University of Surrey. Oh, looks like we are only going to have 2 health and medicine articles. So we're not doing the bacteria one? Okay, so we're not doing that one. I will nix that out. I'll have to change that in post. It's okay, we do it live. Okay, all right, got that all fixed up. Thank you. All right. A new study from the University of Surrey reports that forskolin, a plant-derived natural compound, could play a promising role in improving outcomes for patients with KMT2A rearranged acute myeloid leukemia, one of the more challenging forms of the disease. According to the findings that were published in the British Journal of Pharmacology, forskolin appears to directly slow the growth of leukemia cells and also improves how well chemotherapy works. The research team discovered that the compound activates protein phosphatase 2A and reduces the activity of several genes known to support cancer progression. The study also identified an unexpected benefit. Forskolin made KMT2A rearranged acute myeloid leukemia cells much more responsive to daunorubicin, a commonly used chemotherapy drug. This boost in sensitivity did not require protein phosphatase 2A activation. It just did it on its own. Instead, forskolin seemed to interfere with P-glycoprotein 1, a protein that cancer cells use to expel chemotherapy agents and develop resistance. By preventing this process, forskolin enabled higher concentrations of daunorubicin to accumulate inside the leukemia cells, greatly increasing the drug's ability to kill them off. Dr. Maria Teresa Esposito, senior lecturer in biochemistry at the University of Surrey, said, "Our findings have highlighted an exciting dual mechanism of action for forskolin. Not only does it have direct anti-leukemic effects, but it also acts as a powerful enhancer to conventional chemotherapy. Combining forskolin with daunorubicin could lead to a more effective treatment strategy, potentially allowing for lower doses of chemotherapy and reducing the severe side effects often associated with AML treatments." That's really cool. To everybody working with forskolin to attack and take care of one of the worst forms of leukemia, cheers. This next one, if you're from my generation, you'll understand the meme. If you're not, no worries, look it up. We call this one, "Here's a llama, there's a llama, and an anti-venom llama. Llama, llama, taste of llama, 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 snake!" I am a dork. I'll copy and paste this one into the chat. The secret ingredient in a snake anti-venom? Llamas. This was published to Popular Science on October 29th of 2025 by Andrew Paul. Most of today's snake bite anti-venoms are manufactured from animal blood plasma. The antidotes often remain expensive, inconsistent, and difficult to scale across multiple snake species. But a new approach detailed in the journal Nature may finally offer a major step forward to save countless lives. According to recent findings, an anti-venom super ingredient exists in llamas and alpacas. Venomous snakes account for around 10% of the estimated 4,000 known species in the world. Of those, only about 360 of them fall within the Elapidae family. But despite their comparatively small numbers, elapids like mambas, cobras, and wrinkles are among the world's deadliest snakes. Elapids are among the deadliest because their venoms contain potent neurotoxins that act rapidly to induce paralysis and respiratory failure. Anne Lungars, a biological engineer at the Technical University of Denmark and study co-author, tells Popular Science. What's more, elapids are capable of producing particularly large quantities of venom and are often very large. But as dangerous as elapids are to humans, other mammals contain their own potential protections. Alpacas and llamas naturally produce a special antibody variant. Lungers and colleagues wondered if using these to specially engineer proteins called nanobodies might provide a new antivenom treatment path. To do this, they first immunized the camelids with venoms collected from 18 African snake species. Next, they extracted samples to construct phase display libraries, a process to study protein interactions by examining which proteins display on the surfaces of bacteriophages. From there, researchers could comb through the libraries to identify any broadly neutralizing nanobodies. That's some really cool science. Nanobodies have some key characteristics that are beneficial for antivenom development, including high affinity binding and small size, which makes them good for rapid deep tissue penetration and reducing local tissue damage, said Lungers. They're also comparatively cheap and highly stable, allowing them to be stored in adverse conditions like high temperatures. Lunger explains that nanobodies also exhibit a low immunogenicity, making it safer and capable of administration even before snakebite symptoms begin to show themselves. Today's treatments are typically given after symptoms occur, since they suffer from the risk of causing adverse reactions, she adds. In laboratory trials with rodents, the new nanobody antivenom prevented the deaths of mice exposed to venoms from 17 of the 18 snake species. It even reduced tissue damage typically caused by some of the most toxic venoms. The treatment also outperformed the existing commercial antivenom Enoserp pan-Africa in preventing necrosis and death in mice across all snake species. However, the study's accompanying announcement also reports that the nanobodies are currently only partially protective against green and black mambas. Despite this, Lunger and her colleagues hope to move forward with their promising alternative, antivenom, in clinical trials. That is really cool. To everybody involved with finding out that llamas and alpacas have a special antibody that could help save people's lives from being bitten by some of the most toxic snakes on the planet. Cheers. Here's a llama, there's a llama, and another little llama. All right, that is going to get us out of cool health and medicine. We are going to move on to category 3, cool flora and fauna, aka cool plants and animals. This first one was sent in by Mona. Thank you very much, Mona. We called it Dinner Break at the Krusty Krab. I'll copy and paste this into the chat. These British Columbian wolves figured out how to pull up crab traps to get food. This was published to the Canadian press on November 17th of 2025. Producer Donna wrote 10:15. I had a stroke. I'm like, we've gone back in time. This was published to the Canadian press on November 17th of 2025 by Chuck Chang. Researchers have captured video footage of wild wolves in British Columbia pulling crab traps out of the sea by their lines to eat the bait inside, in the first evidence of possible tool use by animals. Well, by these animals. A report in the scientific journal Ecology and Evolution by researchers Kyle Artell and Paul Packett say they placed cameras on the beach aimed at Hiltsuk First Nation crab traps to work out what was repeatedly damaging them. The traps, set up near Bella Bella on British Columbia's central coast, were being used to control the invasive European green crab, and some were in deeper water submerged at all times, leading researchers to believe the damage that started back in 2023 was caused by marine mammals. Within a day of the cameras being set up in May of last year, researchers captured footage of a sea wolf emerging from the water with a buoy hanging from its mouth. The footage then showed the wolf dropping the buoy on the beach, picking up the exposed line, and pulling it until the crab trap emerged from the water. The wolf then picked up the trap with its mouth, moved it to shallower waters, and ate the bait inside. We had to pick our jaws off the floor, said Artell, a researcher with the State University of New York's College of Environmental Science and Forestry. We know that they're really, really smart, but it hadn't crossed our mind that, maybe a wolf is swimming out to the deeper traps and bringing the buoy to shore, pulling the line up just like a person would. The cameras then picked up a second sea wolf also pulling up a crab trap in a similar way earlier this year, leading researchers to believe other wolves in the local pack may have learned from each other. Researchers say a few cameras at the British Columbia site are now dedicated 24/7 to the crab traps to track the behavior of sea wolves in the area. Some really special things are happening here, and we want to understand more about that. What else is happening on the ground? What else do these wolves have to teach us? And so that's a focus for the next decade as we explore more about wolves here, Artell said. This is really just the tip of the iceberg. To the wolves that learned to go crabbing. Well, they're not really eating the crabs, they're just eating the bait in the traps. And to Mona for sending in that article. Cheers. I call this next one 8 Tiny Pianists in an Octopus Coat. I'll copy and paste the article link into the chat. Swedish musician teaches a highly intelligent octopus to play piano. This was published to Classic FM on November 19th of 2025 by Hazel Davis. Struggling to encourage your students to learn new tunes? Got some crabs handy? Swedish musician and YouTuber Matthias Krantz, known for his eccentric musical experiments, has found a way of teaching an octopus to play piano. Thank you very much, Becky, for sharing. We appreciate that. Krantz, who regularly shares his bonkers projects online, visited a live fish market where he rescued a young octopus he named Takoyaki. Combining his fascination with animals and music, and knowing that octopi are famously clever, he decided to see whether his new companion could learn to play. I've always wanted to teach an animal piano, Krantz explained on YouTube. In theory, octopuses have incredible potential. They're as smart as a 3-year-old, amazing problem solvers, and each of their 8 arms has its own mini brain. It's like having 8 pianists in one body. Krantz tried several teaching methods, including light-up keys and fake crabs hidden inside the instrument. These didn't work, so he designed a custom-built octopus piano tailored to Takoyaki's strengths and curiosity. Now every time Takoyaki presses a piano key, a small food tube lowers a crab slightly closer to him. Only by completing a melody does the crab reach grabbing distance. No one would believe me if this wasn't recorded, Krantz said. Takoyaki may not be performing Chopin etudes, but just yet, but Krantz's experiment has attracted the attention of thousands of Instagram followers and YouTube subscribers. He now lives peacefully at home with his teacher. To Matthias Krantz for rescuing an octopus and then teaching it to play piano. Cheers. We call this next one, The Legend Lives On. And I will copy and paste this one into the chat. Hey, Steve. New wolf snake. Oh, yeah. There it is. New wolf snake honors the late Steve Irwin. This was published to Popular Science on November 18th of 2025 by Andrew Paul. And if you're anything like me, you grew up watching the Crocodile Hunter. Or, well, he had a billion titles. But at the end of the day, it was one man with a vision to see a much better world for animals. Steve Irwin was a great man, fantastic family man, and it's really cool to see him get honored like this. So I think he'd like this one. Conservationists have discovered a previously unknown species of snake and have decided to honor one of the most unique and beloved wildlife educators, the late, great Steve Irwin. The snake was discovered in the Nicobar Islands. Located in the Bay of Bengal, near mainland India, the archipelago is home to a wild range of species not found anywhere else in the world. In 2003, UNESCO added Great Nicobar Island to its protected list of World Network of Biosphere Reserves due to its sheer volume of endemic species. Recently, researchers discovered yet one more animal to further bolster the island chain's reputation. According to its description in the journal Evolutionary Systematics, the Nicobar Island contains another non-venomous wolf snake now taxonomically classified as Lycodon irwini. L. irwini's namesake Steve Irwin rose to cultural prominence in the late 1990s and early 2000s following the debut of his nature show, The Crocodile Hunter. However, Irwin was more than a television personality. The son of the founders of the Queensland Reptile and Fauna Park in Australia, Irwin grew up surrounded by all types of crocodiles and other reptile species. Irwin took over management from his parents in 1991 and later renamed the park the Australia Zoo in 1998. Along with his wife and fellow naturalist, Terry, they passionately promoted a love of nature, wildlife, and conservation for years through both the zoo itself and numerous television series, specials, and even a feature film. Steve Irwin tragically passed in 2006 after a short-tailed stingray's barb pierced his chest while working alongside Philippe Cousteau Jr. in the Great Barrier Reef. His passion and dedication to wildlife education and conservation have inspired naturalists and conservationists worldwide, including the authors of the paper the researchers wrote in their study. L. irwini is a non-venomous, glossy black snake that can grow up to 3.3 feet long. They likely feed on other reptiles as well as small mammals and amphibians. Given its limited distribution range and ongoing threats from humans, researchers are suggesting that L. irwini be considered an endangered species. L. irwini isn't the only animal named in honor of the late conservationist. Australia alone has at least 3 species featuring taxonomic dedications to Irwin: a turtle, Elsea irwini, a microscopic koala blood parasite, Trypanosoma irwini, and even a tiny snail, appropriately named Crikey irwini. There's also a small, fast-moving rainforest spider named Terry Irwin. Like Hartdus Terry Winnie. That is awesome. To everybody discovering new species in the world, across the world, and giving a legend his dues. Cheers. I'm not gonna lie, I almost teared up a little bit. I miss Steve Irwin shows. But his whole family is amazing and doing so many amazing things for animal conservation, so it really is a lasting legacy. This next one is an All the Buzz article. We have a nice bee article in here. I'll copy and paste this into the chat. Scientists have trained bumblebees to understand a form of Morse code. This was published to Nature on November 12, 2025 by Michelle Starr. In recent years, scientists have been discovering hidden depths to bee cognition. Not only do bumblebees seem to practice a form of farming, but they can work together and teach each other how to solve puzzles in a way that was thought way too advanced for their little noggins. Plus, some other species of bees have demonstrated the ability to comprehend and use some basic concepts of math. Being able to recognize duration is a skill that can help animals in many ways, from foraging and mating to predator evasion. Alex Davidson of Queen Mary University of London in the UK and his colleagues decided to test this ability in bumblebees, designing an experiment to see if the insects can tell the difference between a short flash of light and a long one, the basic units used in Morse code. First, the bees were presented with a screen that displayed 2 flashing lights in a small foraging arena, one flashing at a longer duration and the other at a shorter duration. One duration was associated with a sugary reward, something the bees love, and the other was a bitter substance called quinine, which they absolutely do not like. The researchers mixed it up, showing different groups of bees different rewarded signals. The first stage of the experiment was learning which duration was associated with sugar, and which with quinine. The bees were set to navigate a maze to find the treats, until they reached a success threshold of 15 correct guesses out of 20. Then, it was time to see if they had truly learned the timing pattern by removing the reward entirely, to make sure they weren't just smelling the sugar or using other cues. Even without the sugar, the bees chose the timing pattern associated with reward more frequently than can be attributed by chance, suggesting that they were able to distinguish short and long flashes of light. How and why they are able to do this, however, remains a mystery. Since bees don't encounter flashing stimuli in their natural environment, it's remarkable that they could succeed at this task. The fact that they could track the duration of visual stimuli might suggest an extension of a time processing capacity that has evolved for different purposes, such as keeping track of movement in space or communication, Davidson says. It reminds us that complex cognitive processes can take place in a brain the size of a poppy seed, and the abilities we may have once considered unique to humans are more common throughout the animal kingdom than we may have guessed. The research has been published in Biology Letters. To everybody involved in a study figuring out that bees can actually understand, or at least differentiate, flashes for Morse code. Cheers. All right, last article here in Cool Flora and Fauna. We called it The Stuff of Nightmares. I will copy and paste this into the chat. Warning, if you are an arachnophobe, do not look at that article. Do not. Absolutely do not. It is pure nightmare fuel. World's biggest spider web discovered inside Sulphur Cave with 111,000 arachnids living in pitch black. This was published to Live Science on November 4th, 2025 by Sasha Pear. Researchers have discovered more than 111,000 spiders thriving in what appears to be the world's biggest spider web, deep inside a pitch-black cave on the Albanian-Greek border. The colony consists of a colossal web in a permanently dark zone of the cavern, according to a study published October 17th in the journal Subterranean Biology. The web stretches 1,140 square feet along the wall of a narrow, low-ceilinged passage near the entrance of the cave. It is a patchwork of thousands of individual funnel-shaped webs, the researchers noted. This is the first evidence of colonial behavior in two common spider species, and likely represents the largest spider web in the world. Said study lead author Istvan Urak, an associate professor of biology at Sapientia Hungarian University of Transylvania in Romania. The natural world still holds countless surprises for us. The spider megacity is located in Sulphur Cave, a cavern that was hollowed out by sulfuric acid formed from the oxidation of hydrogen sulfide in groundwater. While the researchers revealed tantalizing new information about Sulphur Cave's spider colony, they weren't the first to see the giant web. Cavers with the Czech Speleological Society discovered it in 2022, and a team of scientists visited the cave in 2024, plucking specimens from the web that Urak analyzed before going on his own expedition. This analysis revealed that two spider species live in the colony. Tegenaria domestica, known as the barn funnel weaver, or domestic house spider, and Prenarigan vagans. On their visit to the cave, Urak and his colleagues estimated that there were about 69,000 T. domestica and more than 42,000 P. vagan specimens. Sulphur Cave's spider colony is one of the largest ever documented, and the species involved weren't previously known to assemble and cooperate in this way. Scientists would normally expect barn funnel weavers to prey on P. vagans, but the lack of light in the cave may impair the spider's vision, according to the study. The spiders eat non-biting midges instead. The spider's sulfur-rich diet influences their microbiomes, causing them to be significantly less diverse than the microbiomes of spiders from the same two species outside the cave, gut content analyses revealed. Molecular data also showed that the spiders inside the cave were genetically different from their relatives living outside, suggesting the cave dwellers have adapted to their dingy surroundings. Alexander the Great said, researcher is code for poor bugger who walked into it. That's good. To everybody involved studying the potentially the largest spider web in the world. Cheers. And to all those spiders. Cheers. All right, that is going to take us out of cool flora and fauna. We are going to move on to our final category, cool, wholesome notes. And we have one article here. And this one was sent in by Eliza. So Eliza, thank you very much for sending this in. We called it 139-year-old game of hide and seek. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this article out. This shipwreck eluded searchers for 139 years. A group of historians and citizen scientists found it in 2 hours. This was published to the Smithsonian Magazine on September 22nd of 2025 by Sarah Huda. On September 15th, 1886, the F.J. King was transporting a load of iron ore across Lake Michigan when the ship encountered a storm and started leaking. The crew tried to pump out the water, but the three-masted schooner eventually became so flooded that Captain William Griffin ordered everyone to abandon ship. They clambered onto the ship's yawl boat and headed for shore, where they were later picked up by a nearby schooner, the La Petite. In the early morning hours, they watched the F.J. King sink bow first beneath the waves. For decades, shipwreck hunters searched for the vessel without success. The F.J. King proved so elusive, she even earned a reputation as a ghost ship. Brendan Bailid, president of the Wisconsin Underwater Archaeology Association, led the efforts to find the F.J. King along with his longtime research partner, Bob Jake. They decided to invite 20 citizen scientists and community historians along for the search to share in the excitement of looking for a missing wreck. The group was just 2 hours into the trip when an unusual shape appeared on the side-scan sonar system. Measurements confirmed it was the F.J. King. They next deployed remotely operated underwater vehicles to capture photos and videos of the wreck, the first time anyone had seen it in more than a century. Key to their success was Bailid's extensive research on the F.J. King. He reviewed hundreds of historic documents about the ship and its sinking, including 2 important records. One was the report the captain filed about the wreck. The other was a report from William Sanderson, the keeper of the nearby Kana Island lighthouse, who saw the masts of a schooner breaking the surface closer to the shore. We reasoned that the captain may not have known where he was in the 2 a.m. darkness, but the lighthouse keeper's course and distance to the masts was probably accurate. Says Bailid in the statement. He created a 2-square-mile search grid around the location reported by Sanderson. In the end, the F.J. King was resting on the lake floor less than half a mile from where Sanderson had said he had spotted it. Bailid and his fellow researchers reported the discovery to the Wisconsin Historical Society, which sent divers to document the wreck and create a 3D model of it. In the future, officials hope to nominate the site for inclusion on state and national registers of historic places. At that point, they plan to share the F.J. King's exact location with the public. To the team that found the F.J. King, a vessel that went down in 1886 and has been hiding for 139 years in Lake Michigan, and to Eliza for sending in that article. Cheers. Well, that was some really cool news. 12 amazing, cool articles across our 4 cool categories. And wow, that is some really cool news. Very awesome. That's about it for us tonight. Thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. Again, we're live every Sunday, and our next episode will be on December 14th of 2025. And just to let you know, that is going to be our last good news episode of the year. After that, we've got 2 special episodes, as we normally do. We've got the year in review, and I think the other one's a chat and chill. Why can't I remember? Producer Donna, correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Yeah, Producer Donna said, you can tell it's been a long episode. He's almost out of beer. We really got down to the wire here, folks. Okay, yep. So on the 14th, we've got a good news episode. On the 21st, we're going to have just a run-of-the-mill chat and chill. And then on the 28th, we'll have the year in review. So, yeah, it'll be great. It'll be a great time. We encourage participation, so if you feel inclined, please, by all means, post suggestions for news brews, shoutouts, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can present on future episodes. If possible, spread them out across our 4 categories, which usually are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice stuff that we like to end on. Hey, Joey! Long live Nick's News. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. For the chat and chill too. Yep, for chat and chills, we do Q&As effectively. So if you got some questions, by all means, send them into Producer Donna, and we'll go from there. So you can message us on Facebook or Instagram, or email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are in the description below. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on all of our content on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok to get good news and joy out into the algorithm. We are not looking for any SEO improvements or marketing advertisements at this time, so don't contact us with them. I'm just going to shoot you down, or somebody in our team is going to shoot you down when they see that message. So, but we appreciate everything, so that's about it. As always, thank you again. I love you all. Have a great night, and I will play us out.